Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home. Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show. So happy to have you here. It's a great year. I'm really looking forward to 2018. And if you're here for the first time, I want to tell you that you have definitely come to the right place. If you struggle with food and weight, if you're sick of the diets and the roller coaster ride of yo-yo dieting and all the different methods that don't work and trying and then sabotaging your efforts and the back and forth and the up and down, and I've done all that. I was 50 pounds overweight and I had about 4 different size pants in my closet because I never knew what size I was going to be. So I just want to tell you that I understand and I have something different for you. What we do here at the Heal Your Hunger Show and with all my work with Heal Your Hunger is help you identify and heal the underlying causes of emotional eating, because that is truly the crux of the problem. If you've done any chronic struggling with your weight, chances are you're an emotional eater. And so no diet's going to fix that. No surgery is going to fix that. No pill or potion or lotion. It's really about identifying and really getting underneath the eating habit and seeing what drives you to the kitchen time and time again, what's compelling you to eat even when you know better, because the people who get here, usually it's not their first rodeo. Usually, they've studied nutrition. They've read a lot of books on health. They know what to eat. They know what not to eat. They know what spikes their blood sugar. They know what causes them to gain weight. They know a whole lot of information, but it's not doing them any good because they're emotional eaters and they still eat anyway. So if that describes you, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Today, I'm going to talk about what you're coming to the table with. Okay, so I wanted to talk about what you're bringing to the table. And I'm not talking about what dish you cooked. I'm talking about what inside of you are you using to color your relationships and your experiences of life. And what brought this up for me, this topic, is this past week I spent a week in Hawaii with my sister. And I am the youngest of 3 girls, and this was my middle sister, Carolyn. And both my sisters have struggled with their weight and with emotional eating. And so we've all been on our own healing journeys. And so, this sister, Carolyn, that I spent the week with, she and I haven't talked about a lot of things because it's rare for us to spend this much time together. So we just realized in our adult life, we hadn't spent 6 days together at all. She's got little ones, and when we're together, there's family there, or, there's events we're at or whatever. So this was really special, really great to be able to spend this time together. And we got to talk about a lot of things, and especially our relationship and looking back on the way it was when we were kids, and sort of processing some of the things that were hard for us. And so this brought up a lot of insight for me, and I was able to see what I was bringing to the table. I was able to see what, in what ways I colored our relationship, and it was quite impactful to see this. You see, my older sister she was always, really quite a person. She is very beautiful, and growing up, she was beautiful. She was thin, which I was not. She was super smart. She went to Harvard. All the boys loved her. They did not all love me. I was, overweight, and I was probably compensating for that with a really outgoing personality that, basically could be very obnoxious and unattractive to a boy. So, needless to say, I didn't have it all going for me the way she had it going for her. So, I looked up to her and I really adored her. And, we had tough things going on in our family, and she and I bonded by supporting each other through the parts of our childhood that weren't so easy. And so we really had a beautiful bond. But I looked up to her and I really revered her to the point where she was really my higher power in a lot of ways. And she lived in my head. I always thought about, what would Carolyn think about this? Or, would she like this choice in what I was wearing or what I was doing? Or I was always having a sense of her judgment in my mind of whether she would approve. And so she lived rent free in my head, and I looked up to her, and I felt inherently inferior to her because of all the ways that she was so fabulous that I decided I was not. And so this colored our relationship. So what I brought to the table was a lot of self-doubt and a deep sense of inferiority and low self-esteem. Now, I assumed that she felt superior to me and that she, looked down on me. And she was my older sister, so she had some power over me. She could smush a banana in my face, when she wanted to. Like, she could trick me. She literally did that. She tricked me and acted like she was hugging me, and then she smushed a banana in my face. So she would tease me. She and my oldest sister would tease me. So, she took some liberties and definitely had some power over me because I was a little sister. But beyond that, she apparently didn't feel superior to me the way I projected she did. And there was a time in our relationship when I was on my healing journey where I really felt the need to separate from her because she lived in my head 24/7. And so I really took a lot of distance from her. And for about 10 years, we didn't have much of a relationship. I mean, we loved each other. We knew we loved each other. But I was angry. I was angry and hurt and felt the need to really distance myself, which was hurtful to her. And it wasn't until this week that we really processed that. And, as she reminded me that at some point I had said, you always, I blew up and said, you always act superior to me or think you're superior to me or whatever. And she said, Trish, I never did feel superior to you. I saw you as my equal. I valued what you had to say. I valued your opinion. You were the person closest to me. I adored you, and I never saw myself as better than you. And this was such a revelation because I had colored our relationship with this, brush stroke of superiority versus inferiority. I assumed, because I felt bad about myself, that she was better than me and that she thought she was better than me. And so then I reacted with anger and resentment. And all of this was in my head. This is what I brought to the table. This is what I brought to the table. My insecurities, my self-doubt, my low self-esteem, my assumption that she was better than me because I was fat, because I wasn't as smart, because I wasn't an intellectual the way she was, and all these different things made me believe that I was less than. I want to ask you, where in your life are you bringing this feeling of less than to the table? Where in your life are you assuming other people are either better than you or assuming they think they're better than you, and you're copying an attitude or resentment or a sense of hurt when that might not actually be the real story? Okay, and this is what's so important, is that we bring what's inside of us to the table. And this is what we see, when in fact it may not be the truth. Another example is my parents. I was the youngest. I definitely had it easier than my sisters did. I was sort of the favored girl in that by the time I came along, they softened their rules. My parents weren't as stringent. They weren't as strict. And I had a sweet relationship with my dad. He was very judgmental of my other sisters. When I came along, there was a real soft place in his heart for me, so I had it easier. And yet, there was a time where I started to really rebel and be angry, and it was latent. I didn't go through adolescence at the age of an adolescent. I actually waited till my 20s. But I became angry and resentful and had decided that their love was conditional. I think this is back in the 80s, and those lots of therapy phrases like unconditional love versus conditional love. And my sisters had, really pinned my parents as being conditionally loving. And I copped it, I decided that was my story too, is, my parents were conditionally loving. And if I made a wrong move, they wouldn't love me. And I condemned them for the fact that, they didn't love me unconditionally. And frankly, this was all a story. This is what I brought to the table because it wasn't true. My parents loved me so much, and I just didn't get it. I didn't get it because of what I was bringing to the table. I was afraid that they would reject me. I was afraid that they wouldn't love me unconditionally. But I never truly had evidence of that. I was afraid of that. And I certainly witnessed times when they were harsh with my sisters, and that made an impression on me. So it gave me some justification for this belief. But the fact is, they never truly conditionally loved my sisters either. And what I know now is that parents, overall, parents love their kids no matter what. I mean, it's the rare occasion when a parent truly is conditionally loving, even though it felt conditional to me, like I was afraid I would lose their approval. Approval is different than love. And the fact is, they loved me unconditionally. I just didn't know it. It took me years and wading through this goop of resentment and judgment to realize, wow, my parents always loved me. They always loved me. They always supported me. No, they didn't always approve of me. Yes, they judged me. Yes, they judged my decisions, for sure. But that is different than the unconditional love they always had for me. And I pinned it I labeled it as conditional love when in fact it was not. And in fact, most parents absolutely, they can't not love their kids. And when I came to see my parents always loved me, it was a totally different relationship because I first of all, let them off the hook. I stopped condemning them. I started appreciating them more. And I just came to see that parents love. That's what they do. They love. Even if they're messed up, even if they have terrible ways of showing it, even if they don't show it, or they have their own issues that are in the way of them being loving parents. Fundamentally, parents love their kids. And when I came to see this, it was a totally different relationship. What I brought to the table was a much clearer understanding of who they were and how much they actually loved me. And then I could appreciate them and let them off the hook. And, we could have a much more effective relationship. So, who are you deciding who in your life are you deciding is not supporting you? Who in your life are you deciding is, some way that perhaps they may not be? And only you can do this work. I mean, only you can see this and take a really good, strong look at your relationships to see, have I brought something to the table that's mine, that I'm projecting onto this person? Am I bringing my insecurities, my self-doubts, my sense of injury and injustice to this relationship and giving somebody else something that doesn't belong to them? Because we all do it. We're quick to see where other people are doing that with us, okay? We're quick to blame somebody else for doing that to us, but where are we doing it to others? And this is an important thing to look at. When my sister said to me, Trish, I never felt superior to you. I looked up to you. I valued you. It was like, wow, that was not what I thought. And what I realized is that what I thought was off, what I thought was off. And it was so much more about me than it was about her and the relationship in truth. And so I just really want to encourage you to take a look, put on a new pair of glasses, stop coloring the world with your issues and start seeing where you're defensive and self-protective and self-doubting and how that is making your choices for you. We do it in our jobs. We decide people are snuffing us or they're aloof when in fact they may not be. They might just be afraid themselves. We do it in relationships. We reject them before they reject us because we are so afraid of rejection. So we create the scenario. In our social situations, we assume people feel they're better. We assume people think, we don't belong, when in fact that's our own self-judgment and fear, and we're bringing that to the table. So just take a look. It's time for a little, beginning of the year inventory of what you're bringing to the table and how that may be affecting what you see and how you experience life. Okay, so I look forward to continuing the conversation on the next podcast, and I appreciate your being here. Great to have you here. Happy New Year. If I can be of support to you and help you end emotional eating, please check it out. There's lots of opportunities for you to finally end emotional eating. But for now, let's do that little quick inventory and see what you're bringing to the table, and if you can bring something better and more fulfilling and more really self-loving to the table, because I know that will change your experience of everything. Thank you so much. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
If you enjoyed this show and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.